aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Rebel Alliance podcast. We are live. It is 2:31 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me today on this episode, and it's called Don't Fall for PMA Myths. Get the facts straight. So I've got a little behind the enemy lines, I guess we could put it. What is up with my headphones today? That was passed on to me from some of these other so-called PMA groups or advisors and what they're discussing within their members and what the information they're putting out there in some of these videos and stuff like that. So we're going to kind of talk about some of this stuff today. And but as always, before we get started, I think this is episode 57, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. I could be wrong, but I don't know where I put the stuff I needed to pull up here. Anyways, let's get into it today. Let's start with the housekeeping, get that out of the way. So thank you all for who are joining me today. And as always, if you're looking for more information, and I hope I haven't checked lately, but East Coast PMA has been down since yesterday. The PMA manifesto we have on the same server is down. So I know they're actively working that. There was some issue with files or something way above my skill set. So hopefully those are back up. I haven't checked yet today, but when they are, feel free to go over to the PMA manifesto or East Coast PMA. If you'd like more content, you can find past episodes at East Coast PMA, some blog posts, the inner circle. We had our meeting last night for those members. Now, we also have on both sites DIY templates along with some other things. So if you're looking to make your own association, your own ministry, your own church, and you want to do it yourself without, consulting with somebody like myself or having me write them for you, then you are more than happy, or more than welcome rather, to go over there and get those DIY templates and then roll up your sleeves. And they are color coded. They are really well done, and examples and everything like that, well worth the money. And you can get that over there. And also, if the site's back up, there's also links to Liberty Dollar Financial Association and some other links that help fund and keep this podcast going. And then if you are looking to take back your computer sovereignty, head over to Start9 and pick up one of their embassy servers. I have one. They are a great way to really minimize your exposure while you're online, whether you're going through your own search engine, running your own BTC Pay, which is acting like your own bank using cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, or maybe you just want to have end-to-end encrypted text messaging for you, your family, and your association. It's definitely a great way to get started. And I really am not digging this light today. It's like bothering my one good eye. Hopefully after February 2nd, the other one will be up and working. But as always, thanks for stopping in and listening to what I have to say. Feel free to leave a comment on anything that we're talking about, or ask your questions regarding associations. That's what we're talking about today. And so I got this sent to me from a lady who I assisted with her association. She had gotten it through another organization. They basically really weren't providing her any support after the fact, just kind of took her money and that was it. And it's a little warm in here today, so I got to lose this flannel for today. But as I'm doing that, let me kind of explain what happened. So I get a lot of phone calls or text messages or emails, instant messages from people who had associations set up at other locations, charged anywhere from $250 to $10,000, and haven't gotten a lot of support after the fact, or questions go unanswered and all these other things. So they see the content I put out, reach out to me and the ladies over at the PMA manifesto, and we try to help them the best we can. Now, sometimes these documents have to be rewritten because what they have is basically toilet paper and it's really no good, or it's been copied of somebody else's copy. Somebody paid for, their quote unquote association, and then all they did was change out a few names and nothing's tailored specifically to that one individual. So that being said, a lot of these people are putting out, again, bad information. And if you've read the PMA manifesto, You'll see that we cover 12 myths in that. If you haven't gotten that, get over to the PMA Manifesto Facebook group, get in there, and I believe there's a discount code for members. If you are interested in reading that, it has a lot to do with the taxes and what associations are and so forth. So, that being said, I got this email sent to me late last night, and it was just like, "Hey, Aaron, you might be interested in this." And I tried to combat as much bad information as I can. And if I don't know about a topic or I hear somebody talking about something, I try to research it as much as I can to make a really good educated decision on it and be able to, help everybody else who is in this life path, I guess is the best way to put it, to say, okay, I have an association or I have a trust. Am I using it correctly? Am I set up properly? Am I structured right? And the problem is a lot of these people are giving bad information. So, um, and here is one. So there's this long email. It's probably maybe 2 pages. I'm not going to read it word for word, and I am also not going to share it because I need to keep my sources, my confidential sources, confidential. But that being said, one of the things they talk about is taxes, and it says, in bold print, do not file any tax anything with your PMA. The 1099 is for self-employed contractors, is not needed to do. I'm reading it for verbatim. Let individuals file their own taxes as self-employed and claim their own income. And this is the best part here. As a PMA, we are completely outside of the public system. That is completely false. And that is false because we've had debunk this in the PMA manifesto. We have shown court cases where this just isn't the case because, again, in most areas, an association, an unincorporated association or PMA, the sexy term online, is looked at as a partnership. And depending on where you are, I read it just the other day. I don't have it in front of me now, where we're looking at American jurisprudence and talking about social clubs and associations. And it said that some are completely distinct of their members and others aren't. So the members are liable, and in other cases they're not. And it all depends on your geographical location and where you're located. And again, this is one of the things that they like to push out there, that, oh, if you have a PMA, you don't have to pay taxes, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. And that's not the case. And one of the 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 books they reference, let's see if I still have it up here, is called, and they link to this, and it's called Cracking the Code: The Fascinating Truth About Taxation in America. Now, I've heard many different things about this. This is one of the books I have not yet read, so I'll be completely honest with you there. But again, and I'm all for tax protesting. I'm not a typical tax protester myself. I think there's ways to do things where you don't have to pay for, we'll call it the sin tax, like cigarettes, alcohol, that sort of thing. Roll your own cigarettes. Don't pay the tax on it. Buy the tobacco yourself. Make your own alcohol. I make mead. I also make moonshine. Don't brew beer much anymore, but those are things you can do now, or get paid in alternate currencies and that sort of thing. Now, I haven't read this book, and basically it's talking about, and from my understanding, and I might be wrong, I'll have to do a whole review of this book probably, is basically there's certain ways that you don't have to pay the taxes, and you're a fictional corporation and that sort of thing. Now, there's one person that I have interviewed before, and we actually were in contact a couple days ago through email, who's going to be back on, and that's Dave Merlin. And he is very good at what he does when it comes to taxes, criminal complaints, and that sort of thing. And he is probably by far one of the go-to people for me if I have any questions on this stuff. So we'll probably get him on here hopefully within the next month or so. So that's the reference they give you, is this book. And this book has been out for a very long time. And again, it's one of those things. When was this published? Do I have it here? Oh, maybe it's not in here. I don't think I have it. Yeah, I don't have the date in here, but there's been a few different documentaries. There's been a few different discussions where people said, okay, well, if I have to show me the IRS law, show me the IRS code that says I have to pay taxes, and there's a whole bunch of stuff around that, and maybe we'll do a deep dive into that. But again, if this book's been around for a while. If everybody could do it and it was that easy, then everybody would be doing it. And unfortunately, we see a lot more cases where people end up going to Club Fed because of tax evasion and other things. Now, you can use tax evasion through an S corp or an LLC, or you can use it through an unincorporated association or a business trust. If you're going to be corrupt, you're going to be corrupt. It doesn't matter what type of legal entity you have. And we've seen it even with the churches. They called them paper churches in the IRS case that we looked at, where these people got a quote unquote church and they took all the money for personal inurement. Again, one of these things that these individuals don't tell you, that if you have a church, it has to be run a certain way. Or if you have, if you're doing anything that falls under the 508c1a, which is a church, synagogue, mosque, temple, that sort of thing, or an auxiliary of those. They use the word church, the IRS, to kind of cover all those different buildings. A ministry is not a church, so therefore you're not tax exempt under the IRS tax code, the 508c1a. But these other individuals will tell you that you can have a faith-based association, you can be tax exempt, and they're telling these people like that it's the truth. And when you look at the code, that's not it. Now, if you're going to ask for permission to be tax exempt, you have to play by their rules. Now, if it's between you, your member, and a fence post, and it's all cash, well, that's a different story, or crypto, or that sort of thing. My point is that a lot of these other groups really try to make it sound like associations are this way to beat taxes. You'll even see it if you go to the IRS website and you look up Massachusetts Trust or unincorporated business trust. They'll say those are a sham, even though they're not, because people try to use them to avoid paying taxes. So that's one of the things on here. And then let's see, they talked about if you have a physical location, make sure you have a members only sign. Yeah, that's good to have. I don't think it's necessary because, again, you're not open for public accommodation. You have an intimate association. Nobody's just walking in off the street and coming in to see what you have to say or buy your products or be a part of your association. They have, and I like Chris Ann Hall a lot. I think she's a great, fantastic constitutional attorney. They refer to her no trespassing document, which is a good document. It's just putting somebody I know. It's like, hey, you're trespassing on my private property. You have no business to be here. But again, that's just one of the tools in the toolbox. It's not going to solve all your problems if you have the Department of Early Childhood showing up, or licensing division for education showing up because you're running a ministry or a private education association, and they're saying you're running a daycare or a school that is unlicensed. So just keep that in mind. Some of these things are different tools, and there's tactics and times to use them, and other times they're not. Then they go into some other podcast episodes or stuff that others are doing with some of these other groups that we may or may not have been, when I say we, myself and the ladies over the PMA Manifesto may or may not have been a part of at one point. But that being said, let's move on. Let's see. Offered for public. Let's see here. Well, they talk about having disclaimers on websites, which you should have disclaimers on websites, especially if you have like any type of health stuff, doesn't, not to cause, treat, blah, 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 whatever that typical verbiage is. I can't think of off the top of my head, but they say, they have products and services are not offered to the public, but only to private members. Yeah, I guess you could put that on there, but you should also have a paywall on your website if you're going to have members coming in to maybe buy essential oils through you because you use a third-party distributor or something like that. So, don't have it just open if you have a website where anybody can come in and partake in what the association is about. This is another one where I have yet to find any validity to what they're saying. There's the word I'm looking for, where they talk about public notices. Now, early on, everybody was like, oh, you got to put a public notice. Listen, public notices are great. They're in the newspaper all the time. It brings awareness to things, whether somebody's getting a liquor license or somebody's, has just recently passed and they need to settle the estate. So they're letting all the, any possible creditor know, hey, listen, this person has been deceased. And if you'd like to stake claim against it, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. For an association, I don't think it's really necessary. I don't think it would hurt, but at the same time, they make it sound like you need to do this. And I have yet to find anywhere where anything's ever been stated in any type of court, any type of legal proceeding, anything that says, hey, this is important to let the public know. Again, Why would you want to let them know? It's a private association. It's an unincorporated association. It's a group of like-minded people getting together for a common goal. Why the heck do you want to? Why do you care what Joe Smith down the street has to say about your association? They don't want to join. They don't have to. And putting a public notice out there, and they put on here the basic reasoning behind it is it gives the public a chance to dispute the information of the association. What are they going to dispute? That you're a group of people that want to get together and learn how to grow vegetables or to homeschool or to build a stronger community of other individuals who maybe are unvaccinated or whatever it is. Again, it's one of those things where I don't think there's much weight in it. It's a nothing burger, as they say. And then they say it's a public notice ads that run in the newspaper, blah, blah, blah. In fact, it's very important to be informed. It's very it's not really, well, let's see. Anyways, let's see what else we have here. Then they give an example of a public notice, and it's, be it known to all that the church and faith-based private ministerial association. What is it? Are you a ministry? Are you a private association? Maybe it's all everything into one big bag of mixed yuck. Association be known as XYZ has been established for the purpose of conducting all manner of private business with the association and its members. So now we're back to being association. We're not a ministry or faith-based private ministerial association, whatever they're calling it. ABC and DEF are additional name designees by the church for its outreach program. Now it's a church. Like, you see what I'm getting at here? The wording's not consistent. They're talking about a whole bunch of different things that are all different things under one big conglomerate, and that's just not right. Anyways, they go into trustees and everything else, but we're done with that. Let's see what else. I'm trying to see if there's anything else in here that really they have some files and talks about some videos that they did. Oh, it's taxing. It's sad that this information is still being pushed, and I'm just going to close this email down now because I don't even need this open anymore for the rest of today's talk. But I guess my biggest point is, you can get into these Telegram groups, you can get into, these MeWe groups, Facebook groups, stuff like that, and there's a lot of people peddling a bunch of different stuff, and I guarantee most of them aren't as open to how you can contact them as I am. I have people reaching out. I've had 3 phone calls today. Hey, I saw your video. I'm curious about this. Hey, I got my documents from so-and-so. Are they any good? And this, and I'm not by any means saying I'm the end all be all, but I've done my research, especially with the ladies over at the PMA Manifesto. We've really put in the time, the energy, many video chats because we're in different locations, a couple of us on the East Coast. One of us, unfortunately, is still on the West Coast, but maybe she'll move someday. But anyways, we can't falter for that. But it's these groups that start pushing this stuff. And there's a few different groups that I trust the information that's coming out. One of those is if you go over to Dr. Graves' Telegram group, How to Win in Court Without an Attorney. That group is very good. It stays on point of how to actually win your court cases without using any magic pixie dust to have it happen. Another group, which is I think very good as far as bringing information, is Alfonso's group on Telegram also. And then you also have Big Sib, who's another one that's self-taught, I guess the best way to put it, legal person or a person that finds the legalese very interesting. Then there's a guy out of Florida with taxes, along with Dave Merlin, that I would rely on the stuff that they put forward because they can prove what they're saying. They back it up. It's not just some mythology that they're coming up with. Is Steve Emerson out of Florida. And I believe some of his stuff is in the Telegram group if you're looking for it, some of his audios and stuff like that. One day, maybe we'll get him on a call and so we can pick his brain about taxes because he does bring up a lot of good points. Like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about, how somebody can lose their house. Like, you don't really own your house because you have to pay taxes on it. Now, if you're not running a business out of your house, you shouldn't be getting taxed. This is one of Steve's things, what he talks about in his audios, is that you can't be taxed on monkey business. And if monkey business is the only business that's going on in your house, like you're not running a home-based business, you're not running a podcast like this out of there or something like that, where you actually have a business operating out of your house with then you shouldn't be getting taxed, and you shouldn't lose your house because you can't afford to pay the property taxes and that sort of thing. So I do think that all this eventually will all start to come together. There's many different pieces of it, but you have to be very careful. Like, you could get into the whole UCC and the secured party creditors and the state nationals and all these different things that really have not gone anywhere. They've been around since probably the internet started, and they really haven't made any headway. There's a few here or there that say they've done this and they've done that. But again, I'm trying to bring you what works for the majority. And sometimes having an unincorporated association, it might work. Sometimes having a trust set up for something is even better. Sometimes neither of those work, and maybe just having an LLC. That's what we're trying to put out between the PMA manifesto and East Coast PMA, is to making sure that people understand what all their options are, and they're not being sold this silver bullet. Again, like I've talked before, how you have some of these people that were selling affidavits for $250, like it's going to cure everything. And that's not what an affidavit is for. If somebody would have paid the $200 or whatever it is now to take Dr. Graves' course, get in his Telegram group, ask him a question. The guy picks up his phone. I think he's at 80 something years old. He still picks up his phone when you call him. He's doing a big, I think it's in February in Florida, because when he's not in Michigan, he's in Florida. He's doing a 2-day huge seminar all about legalese and winning lawsuits and filing lawsuits and holding people accountable. There's a lot of bad actors out there. So you should be holding people accountable if they trespass against you or do something wrong to you. And the problem is, not a lot of people want to take the time to learn that. They want to have some silver bullet. They want to listen to somebody that says, well, hey, you can have a free church private ministerial association under nature and God and whatever else you want to throw in there. And it's that. And again, this is one of the things we talked about the PMA manifesto, I think last month's call, was that you have these groups pushing all this nonsense into one thing, or they pick a topic and they start talking about something, from the Constitution. They really don't know what they're talking about, or they just really haven't researched enough. So I guess my point is, just be careful, folks. I'm glad you spend your time here with me. I'm more than happy to answer questions when you guys have them. You guys know, you throw them in the chat. I put them up here on the screen for everybody to see. I'm very transparent in what I do. And, I'm just trying to bring the right information and actually saying, here's how I back it up, or here's where that information comes from. Like, there was a guy in the, I forgot who his name was now, in East Coast PMA on the Facebook group, saying you're being sold a dream or something like that, along with the associations. They don't have any standing, you have no protection, blah, 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 blah. But obviously he, I don't know why he's in the group, but we went over it the other day, where here's stuff out of the constitutional law desk book and cases that back up privacy, association, right to assemble. We also have court cases, other court cases that back it up. We have jurisprudence that backs it up, where I read it the other day, where it talks about, yes, some associations are looked at as legal entities, and in other locations they're not. So you need to be aware of where you are and how your association is looked at. Is it looked at as a partnership? Are the people that run it, are they the ones that are responsible should there anything go sideways? So yes, there is nuances to all this, and I think that's the biggest thing, is not a lot of people understand that. They've watched a couple videos, they hear a few of these Davids talk, and then all of a sudden it's, hey, I've got an association, and what you paid for, one, you wasted your hard-earned money, which really hurts. And then two, it's not providing the protection that you thought you had, or you don't know how to enforce that protection because you don't know how it works in your area. And again, it's different in every area. There's some parts, in the southern parts of the state where, the country, where they are very familiar with unincorporated associations, and other parts like in New England, they may not be so much. But it's to bring that awareness and be able to articulate what you have, and to be able to stand up and back it up. And I feel, a lot of you might be very upset, angry, stressed out. You've paid good money for these associations, or you thought you were getting a good association, and then come to find out that really it's not. And if you really take the time to read it, you'll see that a lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of it is putting multiple things into one type of association, I guess is the best way to put it, just a mixed bag. And I'll be the first to admit, I'll send out documents, and that's why I do a review period, because I miss things. I have typos. I'm only human. I make mistakes, first one to mention it, but again, I want to make sure that you have the best possible documents you have, or get the DIY templates if you don't want to, hire somebody and you really want to do the work yourself, really understand what your documents say, really take the time to put them together. That's a whole nother way of doing it, and you're going to learn so much more. So we got 5 people on today. That's like the second highest. Really appreciate it. If any of you that are watching, please let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you've heard about associations. I know that might be kind of tough to type that all out in a text or in a type message, but please try your best. And if you would rather just talk to me or the girls over at the ladies, I should say, over at the PMA Manifesto, get over there. Hopefully the website's back up. I got to check that today. As I said earlier, they were all down, and you can get on the call. I think it's this week. Yeah, it's the first Thursday of the month. So it'll be coming up this week, 8 to 9, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. I think it's 8 to 9. I'm terrible with time sometimes. Luckily, I made today, only missed it by a minute. But those are just some of the things that, this information is, I just wanted to bring up here because it's frustrating. As I get out here, I try to come up with content. I try to come up with topics of, to bring the best possible information to you. But then I've got to like combat all these other individuals that are putting out bad information, because unfortunately I come across it, or you might get a consultation with them. They're going to tell you things that are probably a lot different than what I'm telling you. And it's because they're regurgitating what they've been told. They haven't done a lot of the studying on their own, and they're not open to seeing that maybe, like the rest of us, we were kind of bamboozled early on until we started doing our own research to say, well, I don't know, this doesn't really jive. And they're just going to, sell you stuff that really isn't what you think you're getting. And I think that's the hardest part for me, is when I have consultations with people and they're like, well, I paid $4,500 for this, or I paid $5,000 for that. And I'm like, oh, you're going to hate me by the time we're done with this conversation, because now I've got to tell you what you got really isn't what you thought you got. And based on the area you're in, it's looked at differently. Like the biggest thing is like when they talk about the free church and all these different groups, they'll say, hey, you can have a free church. You're tax exempt under the 508c1a. Great. That's true, partially. But how does that church need to be run? It's different in every area. You might have to have some people on your board that are in non-paid positions. You might have a certain number of people on your board. You might need to have people that, are not related on your board. And again, this is some of the things that the Angelas and Erica found as we were doing our research, saying, hey, in Maryland, it's a certain way. In Jersey, it's a certain way. Connecticut's a different way. California's a different way. Everywhere is different. But they just tell you, oh, you've got a free church. You're free to do what you want. You don't have to pay taxes. You're good to go. And then somebody's like, okay, great. Awesome. Now I don't have to pay taxes. I've got this church. I'm tax exempt. Church can own property, real property, blah, blah, blah. And then they go out and they buy a car or a house, and they're like, IRS, like, whoa, wait, where'd that money come from? Well, it came from my church. Well, that's great, but now it's considered personal inurement, and that's not allowed. So guess what? Now you're going to find yourself in court. And these are the things that people aren't being told. They're being told only partially how things work. And that's the problem. There's always these partial truths, and you really need to make sure you understand how the whole kit and caboodle, ball of wax works, crust of the biscuit, however you want to put it. You need to make sure that you know as much as you possibly can before you jump off that cliff, because I don't want to see anybody, end up behind bars. As much as an anarchist as you want to be, the last place you want to be is, in Club Fed somewhere. So that's why I think it's important to make sure you take your time, talk to a few different people, be like, hey, I heard this guy say this isn't true. How do you back that up? Or, okay, well, I have a private ministerial free church, nature and God association, and I'm tax exempt. Can you show me where it says that? Okay, well, great. Here's the IRS code, but it says church. Is this a church, or is it a private ministerial association under nature and God? Well, it's not a church, right? So these are the things you kind of have, keep your head on a swivel, so to speak, and ask these questions and challenge what they're saying. And, this is what happens when I talk to people. I'm like, well, here's what it is, and here's the stuff, and I'm going to send you some stuff in your email. And then you can read it for yourself. It's black and white. It's people that are way smarter than me that have written this stuff about associations, the freedom of assembly, the right to assemble, and all that stuff based on the First and 14th Amendment. So, we're at 5 minutes now, or 5 minutes. I'm looking at how many people are online. Wow. All right. We were at just about 30 minutes. I would like to open this up to any questions if anybody has any. If not, then, we'll close this out because I've got kids coming home soon. And yesterday, boy, when they came through that door, my office door was open. It threw me off like you wouldn't believe. So, Dustin, no worry, man. It's okay. You can be late. It happens. So, hopefully you caught most of this. Let me know if you have any questions on associations. It doesn't have to be about the topic, about the myths. But again, if you don't have the PMA Manifesto, check it out. Go to the PMA Manifesto Facebook group. I believe there's a discount code over there. Erica kind of runs that more than anybody else. But that'll answer a lot of your tax stuff. And just be wary of what you're hearing. Like they start talking a loyal title and stuff like that, run for the hills because it's just land patents and everything else. I haven't seen anybody yet do it, but there's always one or two that says they have it done, and yet I haven't received any proof. So just that's kind of off topic. Just kind of keep it when you're getting into this stuff, make sure you're really putting the person through the ringer, I guess is the best way to put it. Like ask all those questions. Don't just, and I always say it here, don't take my word, don't take it for my, what I'm saying. Go look it up yourself. Go do the research. I'll post stuff on East Coast PMA, the Facebook group and Telegram. If I remember, half the time I don't. So feel free to let me know if I said I was going to post something in one of the videos and I didn't. Leave that in the comments and I'll make sure it gets done. But I want you to do the research yourself. I want you to say, hey, here's the document. So when somebody sends you a cease and desist and you talk to some of these other groups and they're like, you don't have to answer that. Give them the Chris Ann Hall trespassing, form and tell them they're not allowed here and you're not in their jurisdiction. Well, that's not going to work out so well for you because you do have to do that. You do have to understand if they have personal jurisdiction over you or subject matter jurisdiction over you based on, a few different things. And these are things that you need to understand because, it's great to say, hey, yeah, we're in the private. We don't have to answer to you. But at some point in time, it's going to come to where you need to answer what you're doing. And unfortunately, I don't think we should. I think we should just be left the hell alone and be allowed to operate and have commerce with people and do things that we want. I think the federal government should be more worried about, shutting down the borders and keeping any more attacks happening on our own soil. But, until that time happens, we have to try to live as free as we possibly can with this tyrannical, overreaching government that we have. And we really need to understand the Constitution and how it's there to enforce and protect our rights, what rights we have, how to apply those rights, and then how to back those rights up, and then how the system works. You can say all you want, I don't want to be part of the system, but if you get a cease and desist, you're going to need to know how to answer it. If you get a complaint against you, you're going to want to try your best to get it dismissed before you use, you answer it with your affirmative defenses. And these are all the things that you kind of have to tie together. I wish it wasn't that way. They don't make it easy for us. They don't provide the information very readily. We had to do a lot of research. I spent a lot of time on Westlaw, looking through different court cases, looking through different opinions, looking through different legalese. I can't think of the name of it now. That is on there, and Bloomberg Law is another one. Going through there, seeing what I can find. LexisNexis, all these different resources. Even the local library. Going in there, that's where I found the Constitutional Law Desk book, and I was like, this thing's money. It talks about everything right here. So make sure you get out there, you understand this stuff, you ask the questions, and that's why I try to do these videos daily, Monday through Friday, because I want you all to have the best possible information you have so you can make a well-educated decision on which route you should go. Because like I said, I've had more conversations where I've told people, yeah, an unincorporated association is not what you need. You just need to get yourself an LLC or stay as sole proprietorship or just do things completely underground, based on what they're doing or what their goals are. So, don't think that just because you're going to talk with me, I'm going to say, hey, get an association. A lot of these places will be like, yeah, get an association. You could definitely do it. And I'll tell you, no, I don't think that's the best course of action. Or maybe it's having a LLC managed association or an unincorporated business trust that manages the association. There's a bunch of different reasons why you want to do these different things. But again, I'm getting off topic. So we're at 34 minutes now. I just wanted to say, I hope this brought some light to some of the myths and really tried to nail home the point that, listen, just because somebody says it doesn't mean it's true. Go through it, check it out, make sure you are getting the right information. And as always, my contact information is all over the place. Feel free to reach out, schedule a time to talk with me, either 30 or 60 minutes, or get on here or the monthly call with the PMA Manifesto group, ask over there, or just, put your question in here. Or if you want to, email me your question and we'll cover it on a video. I will also do that, or in the Facebook group. So it is now 3:05 p.m. if I can see the clock right. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Yes, today is Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time. Peace.
There aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.